If you or a loved one is struggling with addiction, please call Parents and Addicts in Need at 559-579-1551 or check us out online at painnonprofit.org. Follow us on social media at Pain Nonprofit. Please subscribe to the podcast and share with others wherever you get podcasts. To donate, please click the link in the description and help us save more lives gripped by addiction. Don't Hide the Scars, a weekly podcast focused on addiction and recovery. Created by the nonprofit PAIN, Parents and Addicts in Need, and founded by Flindt Andersen.
Matt Ganem, of course, of Aftermath Addiction Treatment, and a poet and just an all-around great dude and recovery addict and speaker. Thanks for joining us on Don't Hide the Scars.
Hey, I'm honored to be on, man. Always a pleasure having discussions with you on anything recovery related.
Matt, we kind of want to jump down a hole because, you know, Flindt faces some interesting challenges being in the recovery treatment game as well, or whatever term we want to use. There's a lot of unethical practices that go on. And I know, you know, some of our discussions separate as you faced it. And yeah, it's unfortunate when we're people that are really trying to help, because us three gentlemen wouldn't be talking right now without the help of others.
Right. Nah, I mean, unfortunately, a lot of people only see that this industry creates a lot of wealth, and they get in it motivated by money. And when you're motivated by money and not helping people, you're already in it for the wrong reasons. So there's no telling what that type of path will lead you down when you're just about the dollar, instead of trying to help somebody, help them turn their life around, inspire them to get clean, try to put them in a position to succeed, which there's a lot of ethical people that get into this field and this industry for the right reasons. They want to help. But obviously it's going to bring some shady characters with the type of money that's associated with it.
Absolutely.
Well, and I know one of the things that a big misconception, and even I had till I started working with Flindt, was, you know, when it comes to the cost of running it, and sometimes there's that pushback of people, you know, that it's like, well, I want to be there, but I got this type of insurance, or wow, it costs this much, not realizing the amount that the facility actually has to do. I mean, intake doctors, skilled trained professionals, 24-hour care, you know, food.
Food, insurances. I mean, just in California, just payroll tax alone is enough to make you want to go screaming into the night, you know.
I mean, isn't Cali the worst state tax-wise in the country?
It is.
It's right up there. I think it's is it you guys, then New York, or New York, then you guys? I mean, it's right up there.
It might be us and then New York.
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of times people don't, you know, they want you to kind of help people for free, or, you know, for less than, without realizing that there's a lot of costs associated with running a facility and trying to offer the type of help that you need to for people.
Exactly. You know, and a lot of treatment centers, especially out here, they will no longer even take cash clients. Because they're waiting for the big policy, and there's enough people coming into treatment that, you know, some policies are going to pay $4,200 a day for detox, and these guys start doing the math, and if your cash price is $30,000 for 30 days, they're not taking it because they're getting more money off the insurance policy. It's just kind of crazy all the way around.
Yeah, I mean, it's even difficult talking to people about cash. I mean, $30,000 is nothing to sneeze at. Not a lot of people, at least out our way, have that laying around to send a loved one to rehab. So a lot of our area is based off of the people that have insurance. But it's difficult to try to accept everybody because the public plans offer you pennies on the dollar, to the point that you couldn't even run a staff with the reimbursement rates that the Medicaid products, which is Mass Health for us, you know, affords. You know, I mean, it's very difficult any way you look at it. Just running a facility, the overhead, the cost associated with it, trying to give the best quality care, being competitive, hiring quality staff, because you could just, you know, you could try to, what do you say, pay everybody underpriced just to fill the place up to try to maximize your profits, but you don't have any quality staff there. And what's the type of recovery that you're really offering the person that is going through your program? And then I always look at it would you send your loved one to your own program? Do you stand by your brand? Do you stand by your label that you would be fully on board with your daughter, your son, your brother, your sister going through your program and be able to stand with the quality of care that you offer?
Right. And I can honestly say yes, and I'm sure you can say yes as well. You know,
absolutely.
It's you know, when you're, and then the other thing is that because there is no cure for addiction, you've got families in particular going, you know, especially if they relapse 6 weeks after they get out of your program, or even a year after you get out of the program, you know, you get the phone call. Well, I just wasted $30,000, and we have to explain, no, you didn't waste $30,000 or the insurance policy, because the seed of recovery has been planted, you know, and families, again, because they don't understand addiction, they're assuming that we're just gonna come in and fix the world, fix their kid. They don't know the amount of work that goes into recovery and what one has to do to stay clean and sober.
And not just the person that's trying to get into recovery, the family needs to heal as a unit. And if they're not getting the type of support or seeking like outside support groups, like we up here in our area, Massachusetts, on the East Coast, there's a great organization called Learn to Cope. It's peer driven, family members, loved ones. So like, as you know, your addict husband, wife, son, daughter is getting the help that they need. A lot of what we do is try to push people to those type of support groups. So they're in rooms where it's like, you know, you're around people that know the pain that you're going through, that have been broken or manipulated or all of that. And you can lean and have their own support network. Because a lot of times, from what I've seen, is a lot of the parents are sicker than their addicts. They're in like that desperation, I need to save my child mode, and I'm willing to do any and everything to try to make sure that my baby's going to be okay. And sometimes, you know, when you squeeze something too tight, you know, they're going to rebel against that and want to be free. You know, treatment's not something that can be, you know, at least what I've seen, I've not seen forced treatment work at a good rate whatsoever.
Right.
You know, you need to be a little open-minded to like, I want to get the help. I want to receive the help, you know, and a lot of that's like education and offering resources to the family. Right. Know? And it's very difficult. I've seen people leave the field, like friends of mine that owned other centers that were like, it was just so draining to get the phone calls that it's my fault that, you know, 6 months after they had relapsed and overdosed, and it's my fault that I don't take this insurance or I can't do it for free. And it's like, you know, a lot of times people get the finger pointed at them, like we're not the ones that save your child. We try to equip them with the tools, put them in a position that they're going to succeed, and it's on them to actually succeed in this. Yeah. And that's like what I try to, when I'm talking to families ahead of time, I try to set the precedent that I don't give any BS statistics of like, oh, if your kid goes through aftermath, this is the success rate that we see, because it's ultimately it's BS. If your son, daughter, if your husband, wife, if they put the effort in, they're going to get the return, but it's on them. You know, no trying question. To teach that accountability piece and setting like, you know, setting the expectation right there. Like we can't do it for them. We can't do it for anybody. Right. You know?
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. We don't give the success rates or anything like that, because you just can't. It's bullshit, you know, but we've been doing that here at the Pain organization, because I have Pain, which is the nonprofit. And then of course I have the for-profit treatment center. And here we've been doing family support work for the last 12, 13 years. In fact, we have our meeting tonight, every Wednesday night, 2 hours, you know, that we've seen over 7,000 families stroll through these doors, you know, in the last 12 years. But here's what's interesting. We do have a lot of people that have continued to come for 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, whether their kid is clean and sober or not. But the majority of these people, they're always gung-ho at the beginning. You know, they march through the doors, man, they're fired up. They're going to, you know, and then all of a sudden their kid gets out of treatment. Now they may show up twice a month, now maybe once a month. Then their kid has a relapse and
they come right back.
They come right back, or not, because they're embarrassed because they didn't, you know, follow through with it. No, it's just a vicious cycle sometimes.
Yeah.
Well, and that's, I think you brought up the perfect word, accountability. And that's the process of becoming, especially when we choose it, like, and you've told me, Flindt, and like you just brought up, Matt, when it's forced upon, so many people just reject it. Very few does it take. But when it's the individual's desire to do so and they take accountability, it's a completely different picture altogether.
Right.
So I'll tell you a little story. So in Massachusetts, they have Section 35 where you get forced into like 30-day treatment or whatever.
Really?
And I think I might have been 19 years old at the time. And I get sent to this place. It got 30-foot fences, prison wire. It's like right at the foot of a state prison. And this is how great it worked is I ended up in the hole for the last 5 days there. I get out at court. I have somebody meet me at the courthouse with a filled syringe. I go across the street to the Kmart across from Somerville District Court, try to get high in the bathroom. And I end up getting into a fist fight with loss prevention and a superhero shopper. And I get dragged out of the bathroom, put in handcuffs, and I get sent up to county within like an hour and a half of getting and then I'm in jail, just like what just happened? I didn't even last a couple hours on the street. It was miserable.
Right.
Like I wanted no part of being there. I had no intention. I get like some parents will do it so they can sleep at night because it's scary out there right now. Like right before we had a little discussion about fentanyl and how bad it is. I mean, we are losing a generation at such a rapid pace. It's disgusting with the type of drugs that are on the streets right now that sometimes just for a mom or a dad or a husband or a wife to sleep at night, sometimes that's what they need to do, regardless of the results of somebody who's like trapped in the sickness,
New Perceptions North, the premier drug and alcohol treatment and recovery center in Central California. A full continuum of medically supervised, top-quality care with programs for detox, inpatient residential treatment with dual diagnosis, intensive outpatient treatment, sober living, support groups, and more. With 50-plus years of combined experience and sobriety, Flindt Andersen and Thelma Gatlin Wilson provide adult men and women with the highest caliber of professional health care, treating each client with compassion and respect, and a safe, comfortable environment. To begin the process of recovery, to proudly create and sustain a life without addiction, call 559-978-1507 or visit newperceptionsnorth.com.
Matt, are you seeing, because what we're seeing out here is we're a distributor of Narcan. And for a lot of years prior to the fentanyl epidemic, I was not, and I'll be the first one to admit it, I was not a fan of Narcan being sold to the general public. In fact, I was at the—
Why not?
And I'm going to tell you why. I was at the National Drug Conference in Atlanta about, 8 years ago, whatever it was. And there was actually a group of mothers there from the Boston area. And there was a breakout session on Narcan, kept with first responders, being sold to the general public. And this one mother, and I was extremely respectful to these women, but I stood up and I said, ma'am, how old's your son? 26. Does he live at home? Yes. Do you pay for his cell phone and all his electronics? Yes. Do you pay for his food? Yes. Do you pay for his car? Yes. Insurance. Well, the list just goes on and on and on. Right. And I looked at her and I said, and you allow him to use heroin in your house and you have, 2 other small children there. I said, can I move in? I said, because now you want Narcan to be able to keep your little boy alive, which I understand that. All right. I said, but why would he ever want to get clean? And so as time progressed, now my tune has changed. Because of the fentanyl crisis, and it is an absolute must that I believe that every household should have Narcan, like an EpiPen or a fire extinguisher or anything else. But what we're seeing out here now, according to my connections, and we're a distributor of Narcan, that drug dealers are giving Narcan to their clients with the fentanyl M30 pills or whatever they're selling them. So these drug dealers are actually starting up nonprofits so they can get the Narcan for free. This is leased in California. or they are sending their people into organizations like ours to get the 1 box, the 2 boxes that we hand out for free. So now we have to take everybody's driver's license. We've got to get all their information. But now that's where that is going. What do you think about that nonsense?
I mean, I'm pretty shocked to hear something like that. I don't picture that happening around here. I don't know what the drug laws are out west, that if you provide somebody with a drug and they overdose and die, that you can get charged with murder. I don't know if that might be one of the reasons that they're trying to do it, to avoid something like that they're providing some sort of safety. But to me, that sounds like a stretch. No drug dealer that I ever caught dope off of would care whether I lived or died to be like, here, let me go purchase Narcan, or go through all those different hoops to try to give you Narcan with a bag of dope. It just doesn't,
out here, it's happening, because this is coming right from the horse's mouth. This is coming right from DEA. But here's the deal. So no, prior to a law that just passed, we could not charge a drug dealer with murder or even involuntary manslaughter
or something like that.
Correct. But now what we have done, I've been part of the program with some assemblymen out here and our district attorney, is that the law is now changing, and they are calling it a poisoning. So when a drug dealer gets arrested, it's a slap on the wrist again, but they have to sign a piece of paper that simply says that I am aware that fentanyl can and will kill somebody. And if I get arrested again, then I can be charged with involuntary manslaughter. That goes into their jacket, goes into their file. Yep. So now the legal system knows that these guys have signed it and are aware of it. But here's the question that I have. If a drug dealer is giving Narcan to a client, knowing that this is a poisoning, now they really know it's a poisoning because they're trying to bring their client back. Does that make sense?
It's really hard for me to try to put this together.
Isn't it?
I get you're trying, you're really trying to sell the idea. It's really difficult to buy that they would go through all those steps when they're just trying to make money and serve whoever their clientele is. And the reality is when one drops, 2 more pop up. Right. You know what I mean? Progressing through that. And I think that even before fentanyl really hit the streets at the capacity that it is, people knew that heroin was bad, that Oxycontin was bad. Sure. I don't think, I really don't. I don't know. I'm shocked. I've never heard drug dealers handing out Narcan. It's kind of a strange concept to me.
Well, and here's why this came about. We have an organization out here called Flindt, all right, which is a fentanyl response team. And they were getting on an average 4 to 7 calls per week on overdoses. Well, for about the last 2 months, that's dropped to 1 to 2. So these guys did some investigations with some of the people that they've gone out with, and these are what the clientele are telling those guys, is that actually got
I
the
can
Narcan
see it at Trap House
drug.
where people are getting high to have Narcan there just in case somebody goes out. Sure. Because nobody wants somebody dying. Well, where you're trying to have illegal activity at, you're trying to hustle, you're trying to make money, trying to sell whatever, that they don't want to have to remove a body from the area. So maybe having it there. But in reality, Narcan is there just to try to offer somebody some help. And if somebody is that conscientious of the drug that they're giving out, we're going to get high. It doesn't matter whether I go through your dealers in California that are offering Narcan or the people that are out this way that could care less and don't give it to me. I'm going to get high when I'm actively using and I'm caught in the grips. And, it might not be a bad thing, because whether they're selling pills, whether they're selling bags of fentanyl, it's a deadly drug. And having access to Narcan just gives you another chance and another shot at living. You know what I mean? And I'm sure that everybody has their own perspective on it. And, I'm not here to I'm just giving you my opinion and getting this information and my first thoughts on it.
Right.
You know, if somebody has access to Narcan that's getting high out there, and it helps them, you know, make it through that overdose, that sees the light to get into your detox or another detox. Like, I mean, that's all it really is. It's not like something, you know, you're not doing Narcan every day to live.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not like a maintenance program that's going to help you survive. It's there for at the worst of the worst times when you're using to try to give you that chance.
Right.
And that's all we can ask for, because if I wasn't given a chance, I'm not sitting here with you guys.
Right. Same here.
I mean, like if I didn't get the bed at the detox I was at, if I called 10 minutes late and that bed was taken, who knows if I'm still on the same trajectory of life.
Right.
You know, so it's definitely a strange concept. But, you know, I remember when I was first doing advocacy work and hitting the streets, and I was at the Cambridge Needle Exchange, it's a city right outside of Boston. And at the Needle Exchange, they were talking about how now Cambridge is a pretty big city and they refused to carry Narcan, right? Mm-hmm. The police department was like refusing it. And this was right when fentanyl was like first hitting our area. It was about 2014. Right. And I remember talking with the harm reduction people saying it's going to take like an officer's son to overdose and have other police officers show up and say, hey, this isn't in my union contract. I'm not doing that. I'm not carrying Narcan. I'm not, you know, whatever. And it took a situation like that for the whole city that ended up within a year, they all were carrying Narcan because an officer's kid died.
Sure. It always comes down to that. With anything in the drug world now, it always comes down to whether it's an officer's child that dies or politician or some head medical director somewhere. I mean, that's normally what it takes in order for stuff to change.
We're post-reactionary as is.
Oh, absolutely.
You bet.
Mm-hmm.
You bet.
You know, people like you two gentlemen could sit and tell until you're blue in the face, and then all of a sudden
they don't listen to us until some extreme, and then they're like, "Hey, I'm ready to do everything." Like, oh, we've only been telling you for the last decade you need to do
exactly.
Yeah, right. Especially with the politicians. It'll fit my platform.
I hate politicians. Red, white, blue, left, right. Who cares? They don't do a thing for us.
Nope.
You know, they turn a blind ear and a blind eye to like the people that are struggling out there, and the changes that are needed for the community is just, you know, they move like molasses. It's disgusting.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, we do have a couple out here though. We have Jim Patterson, who's our assemblyman, who's just wonderful at this. You know. No,
there's definitely there's no matter what, there's going to be some good ones that are really into this fight. But what I've seen in our area is a lot of politicians will bank on running, saying we're going to combat the opioid crisis. And that's like their whole political campaign. And we had the governor of Massachusetts run on that. And then the first thing he did when he stepped foot in office is cut substance abuse funding.
Correct.
Like the very first act after we used to see his commercials all over, opioid epidemic. We're here to combat it. Mothers that led mother groups speaking for him, and then literally when he got into office, he cut substance abuse funding.
Yeah, because they need a platform to run on every time.
Exactly.
Right. So they really don't want this stuff to go away because it's a platform for the next time they run for office. Mm-hmm. You know, it's the same revolving door in every city across America today.
No, it's bad.
What are you facing with one of the big challenges, of course, is you know, Flindt will bring up with the insurance kind of running out, or the lot that they'll put on it, you know, that there's this wonderful misconception. Flindt and I have talked about different movies that have touched on addiction. And I love the movie Clean and Sober with Michael Keaton. I think it's one of the best ones because he gets out and shit is still not perfect, and it illustrates it. But we get these magical ones, and I get that they were doing good, but like 28 days, like, sorry, 28 days just isn't enough. So what are you guys doing at Aftermath with the aftercare to really keep people engaged, the addict engaged in the program?
I mean, one of the things that we do is we try to engage them in the community. We're really like, though we're a private treatment center, we're really like engaged in the recovery community as a staff. Recovery events, we really try to get people connected and support, so when they get out, they're not alone. They're not, you know, trapped in that 28-day locked unit, and then they get out and everything is like still there. All the wreckage, all the shame, all the guilt. Well, now what am I supposed to do? You were in your safe little bubble, where our level of care is more of integrating back into society.
Right.
And the way we do it, from what I used to do at another spot, it's a little more of like a stepping stone, more so than like a safe little bubble, I would say. And we have like a bunch of recovery centers around our area that like you can go in. There's meetings every night of the week. There's game nights on Friday. It's like a social place. One of my best friends, Carrie Ann Cacavaro, runs it. She's like an amazing woman in recovery, has like, I think 8 or 9 years. But we really try to get people connected, and there's a wide range of people that we treat. And even with the opioid epidemic, like we're dealing with a lot of alcoholics, like more alcoholics lately than anything, especially coming out of the pandemic where you had 2 years of forced isolation, and like you don't have the entertainment, the release, the being able to leave your house, your work, and your wife was there, kids running around doing homeschooling, getting stressed out. You know, we've seen like a lot of people that were drinking during their Zoom calls every day, started with a glass of wine. Now all of a sudden they can't wake up without having one because they're getting the shakes. So, you know, trying to find like specific meetings that fit like age ranges and substances. I feel like connection's the biggest piece of this. And when you can get somebody to connect and you can inspire them a little bit to like open up and not like sit in the shell scared to talk and express themselves, you get like a lot better results in that capacity.
Yeah, absolutely. We're seeing a lot of alcohol as well.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, you know, and again, I agree with you. Coming out of the pandemic, that was an enormous blow to a lot of people in recovery, you know, and we're seeing for whatever reasons, we're seeing a lot of women right now as well, you know,
I can agree.
Which we haven't seen. I mean, we've had our fair share of women clients, but not to the extent that we have them now.
I think just your take is, and I saw a lot with women. It was, you know, the evening wine club kind of thing, and it had it started to within women have a different kind of socialization. You know, men, we had the 19th hole, and you know these other things, or the men's club meeting or what, and so it became kind of a culture thing for women. And I've had a few friends that are professionals. And they said that was kind of the thing, that the wine started a little bit earlier each and every day.
Every day, yep.
And, you know, then it went on to other things.
You
know?
Yeah. Most of the time out here, it was like a 3-to-1 ratio of guys to girls.
Right.
Like there'd be 3 times more guys in a program than there were women. There's 3 times more men's programs than there are women. And lately it's been like, you know, pretty even split from what I've been seeing. You know, exactly. And that like, it's tough. There's a lot of like shame and guilt that's associated with it. And then it's hard, you know, alcohol is the one drug you have to explain why you don't do, you know, you go to these little suburban parties and you're trying your best not to drink while your kids are running around. You have to give an explanation why you don't, where no one's ever going to question why I don't shoot heroin anymore. Like, what's up with you? Oh, I shot heroin and now like I don't. So I can't do anything that you like to enjoy. They're not going to debate, question. They're just going to move on awkwardly from that conversation. Where like,
you are exactly right, man. You are exactly right.
Where you have to, and then you look at it. You know, you're drinking every day. That's your relief, and that's like what you do to like. I mean, just the fear that was associated with the last 2 years. I mean, the media was just constant COVID, ICU, breathing machine, death, and everybody was going to die from it, right? Just beat into our heads. I mean, there was just like a very scary, you know, perspective out there that like, what do we do when we're, you know, dealing with anxiety, stress, and depression? We drink, we do drugs, we cover up whatever the feelings and emotions that we're going through with the substances that we're familiar with. And in Massachusetts, everything was locked down, but you know, liquor stores weren't. You want to know why? Because if they locked down those liquor stores, the emergency room would be overrun with people withdrawing from alcohol. Liquor stores had to be an essential business when the state of Massachusetts was on complete lockdown. So you could still go and get alcohol. You know? And that, you know, there's advertisements on every corner. There's a half-naked girl with a Bud Light bottle saying, hey, if you drink this, I'll be on a beach with you. None of that for heroin. None of that for, you know, a lot of the other substances. So it's a little easier for people like me to not be able to shoot heroin compared to some of these, the wine club moms and the guys that go out and get wasted golfing and all that good stuff. So, but we've seen like a real large surge, and we're probably 60% alcoholics right now, 65, I would say.
Yeah, makes sense.
How did you, during the pandemic, not only continue to be an advocate and leader in recovery, but work and maintain you're a dad, you've got all these things on your shoulders like so many other people.
I mean, I'm blessed that for the most part, outside of like a little period of time through the pandemic, I was still working. I was still able to leave my house because we were a medical facility and we were labeled essential. And the fact is opioids have been killing people long before COVID mysteriously surfaced. So I'm going to put up with whatever the consequences are catching that virus if it's going to help somebody like save their life and not feel alone and isolated. And when a lot of like meetings went to Zoom, we started like a men's meeting that met in person, like screw the consequences. Like we need this. And if they ever come up, like we're going to die one way or another from COVID or from shooting heroin or fentanyl right now, that if you see us in a circle by the lake or a little closer than, social distancing, suggestions require. The fact is like we need each other at difficult times. And when forced isolation, like there was a lot of people that I know that had multiple years in recovery that fell off. Absolutely. Because they got disconnected from meetings. They didn't have their support. They didn't feel confident enough to like express themselves. And like this to catch your real emotions when I'm sitting, like we can talk, and I'm not saying anything about the podcast. What I mean is during the Zoom meetings, it's not as intimate as like, hey, Johnny, what's been going on? You're with them and you feel like, something's wrong.
Sure.
Let's get honest. What's going on? Like, let's try to get deeper than what you're trying to express. So I always believe like in person, it's such a better support than all the meetings that went to Zoom. And I'm sure that they help some people too, but like, how easy is it to be like, oh, I'm not hopping on the computer today, or I'm not picking up the phone, or,
It definitely removed a lot more of the accountability piece, I think.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, Matt, I want to ask you, what out there, is there a lot of competition between treatment facilities? Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, over the last couple years, places have been popping up left and right. It's like a California or a South Florida right now compared to the first facility I opened was in 2016 and there was only 3 of us. And now there's like 13 and a 45-minute ride from Beverly, Mass to Framingham and more coming in that small section of a strip of highway or whatever. So, but a lot of us like are in the recovery community, have known each other for a long time. So it's not as cutthroat, I would say, as some of the other areas in the country with some of the tactics. We don't see as much unethical. There's definitely some questionable behavior, but not as unethical as like I originally got into treatment working in Florida. So I heard of all the nightmares of the different things that were going down there, of body brokering, of, the Kenny, whatchamacallit, chapters, that guy that was like, he was a guy in South Florida that had a program, was billing urines, billing treatment, giving them drugs. Like some really, really disgusting things. You don't really see that stuff up here, or at least it hasn't happened yet. So, but it is a very, very competitive area in that sense.
Have you ever seen the movie Body Brokers?
Yep, I've seen it.
Yeah. We did a podcast with John Schwab. And just a great movie. I mean, it really set the tone. Makes your stomach turn. It did. I literally got sick to my stomach watching that thing because I'm watching that thing and I'm thinking, my God, I know these people. It's just disgusting. Absolutely.
Well, that's like for me. I've like the area that I'm in is the only real area that I really get the clients to come in here to get treatment. I don't fly people in. I don't try to go outside of the little, I don't know, I would say a 4-mile radius is where most of the people that come to treatment with us come from. Over the years of working in treatment and going to the different conferences and seeing the way people talk about, you know, what they do for a living and how it's described can be really disgusting to me. Where like I try to base what I do off of the success of people, you know, people that take the approach, because we have like a little, there's evidence-based treatment. Obviously we have to do it. There's guidelines for insurance companies, but we also like, I love people up. And I was at a corporate place before that used to not understand the power and impact of telling somebody you love them, giving them a hug and telling them that you believe in them. And it would frustrate them because it's not something tangible. It's not something that you can bottle up in a graph and put into somebody's treatment plan. But when you see people that celebrate 6 years, 5 years, 4 years, 3 years that went through that program, you know, sometimes loving somebody up, treating them like a human being, having access to like, you know, we try to all be in the trenches with them. You know, there's not really, oh, this is just your therapist. You can't talk to somebody else. You know, sometimes you relate to, you know, for who we have now, Rob G is a very spiritual guy. If you're like a religious, spiritual person, you might connect with him. But on one day you want to talk about something deeper. And we have Hillary that can get real deep, you know, you want personal experience. I mean, I love the conversations that I have with older gentlemen that are very successful and alcoholics. And we come from 2 different backgrounds, 2 different, you know, I grew up, I was homeless at 16, got into drugs really young. I was a monkey that sold bananas. And you got some guy making, you know, a vice president corporate salary. And I'm giving him advice and talking about feelings, emotions, and how you find the different outlets in the toolkit. You know what I mean? Like we try to really, you know, just love people up. So,
I want to talk about that because you and finding purpose in your voice is such an important thing for people to do. Flindt, I'll have to share with you some of Matt's poetry and some of the spoken word stuff you do. How do you take and translate that with people that you work with and maybe helping them find their thing? Because it gave you so much purpose. And I love following Matt on social media because I see pictures with his kids and all the work he's doing. And how do you translate that to people?
I mean, there's various ways that you can translate it. So one thing I always try to do is push people to do better. I think a lot of times that we're drilled into our heads that we have to be grateful for where we're at and not kind of stay in the moment. Where I always try to push people to succeed. I want to see people win. I want to see people do well. And I want people to be inspired and love what they do. Like I get to wake up every day with a purpose where I haven't felt like I've worked in probably 7-8 years at this point. You know, like it's not even a thought. I get to do what I love. I get to be around, you know, from people in recovery, people that are broken, and I get to try to help build them up. You know, and like, I'm sure with you and your program, like we have people that go through our program and we hire them. It was the same at the last place. You know, we just had a guy, John T, celebrate a year that we brought him on a few hours a week. He's an older gentleman, doesn't even need the money. He just loves being around the guys and like giving that positive influence. And he feels a purpose like, hey, this is something I've taken from the world for so long. So I want to give something back. You know, but I've really just try to push people to follow their heart, make sure that they're happy, you know, because a lot of times we get trapped in jobs that we hate. You know, the golden cage, trapped to a good paying salary, but we're miserable at our job. And happiness is like key, and make sure that you're taking care of yourself and trying to find that drive and stay inspired, you know, and don't try to quit. I mean, it's different for everybody, trying to tap into their purpose. And then I try to lead by example. You know, I am not somebody that, like, I'm at every recovery event I possibly can be at. We compete. We do like a ton of sporting recovery fundraisers, kickball tournaments. We just won a 32-team wiffle ball tournament that we were there from 9 a.m. till 5:30 at night. playing wiffle ball with a bunch of recovery. You know, all the teams are in recovery resources. You know, it's like, I don't know. I try to take the action and hopefully people follow, and I try to do right by people, and the good will come back. So,
yeah, absolutely.
You know.
Well, I think that's one of the amazing things that you brought up and pointed out, like for instance, a CEO guy and you know, Matt, your story, like you said, 16, you know, the monkey selling the banana. I mean, Matt's story is deep, folks. It's one of those that after I learned from our conversation, I was like, man, I need to cry. I'm just glad this dude's alive, because it's like shit, you know. Not to compare addiction stories, because hey, we're all just glad we're sober, but it really is amazing how in recovery we can bring so many different type of people into the same room that might have just not even spit on each other if we were on fire.
Right.
But we have that connection, you know. We have
there's a connection,
something that we can relate to, you know, without having it be the substances or even the experiences. We still can relate to that void, that the pain that we all felt when we were out there, the hopelessness. You know.
Now, as a parent, got to ask, we are parents and addicts in need. How are you communicating with the kids? I mean, your oldest is 14? Yeah. 14. Okay.
Whoa. Yeah. So I got a lot coming your way, my friend.
Oh, I know. So my son, my daughter, I've started talking about the people she hangs out with. You are who you hang around with. That was something my mother used to say to me, oh, that kid's a bad kid. And I would lie through my teeth saying he was the best kid, but she was always right. She isn't there yet. She's 9. She has a lot of I am scared because she's me reincarnated. She's a troublemaker. She's, you know, angry. She's emotional. She has outbursts. You know, just the behaviors right now are something I'm a little worried about, but I haven't been as upfront with her to this point as I have been with my son. My son is, to get to where I'm at, it took a lot of sacrifice over the years. Right. And also who had to sacrifice is my son. Sure. He used to have to come to events, whether it was poetry, recovery, I would be speaking, I'd be performing, and he would be there in the crowd. I'd always make the crowd clap for him because it embarrassed him, and he'd get all mad and pissy at me, you know, but I still do it to this day. But I've been very open with him. You know, he's known I've been a drug addict probably since he was 7, 8 years old. I was on this kick to try to stop drinking Red Bulls, and well, not Red Bulls, it's Celsius's now, but energy drinks, right? I'm like an energy drink. I drank a couple a day. I had like 3 weeks of sobriety from Celsius's. And I don't realize, I say some dumb shit from time to time. And I was talking to my friend Jenna, who was over, saying that I relapsed and I drank a Celsius. And my God, did my son get so heartbroken, thinking the worst had happened, because I've been so open with him. And he knows I was a heroin addict. He knows I went to jail and I was homeless, and how hard I've worked to get to this point to try to provide a life for him. But I'll tell you, in that moment where he thought I relapsed, I was heartbroken with how his emotional reaction. Sure. Where I was just talking hey, I tried stopping to drink energy drinks for 3 weeks and went right back to them. You know, I'm good. I didn't do anything like that, buddy. Nothing that you got to worry about. But
well, you know something, Matt. You look. I got 2 boys, and they're now 43 and 37.
My age.
Yeah, and let me tell you something. I've got a great relationship with those guys today. But I'll tell you what, it took a while, and especially in that first 4 to 5 years of my recovery. I remember one time my older son wasn't living with us. He obviously not, but he came home. I told you this story, where a Saturday morning, he drops his laundry off for his mother to do. And of course, it's like, dude, you got your own washer and dryer at your house. Why do you got to drop it off here? But I said, kid, I was pissy about something. I said, can you just pick that shit up off the floor so mom doesn't have to bend down and pick it up? And he looks at me and he goes, did you use something today? Oh. Oh yeah. And I just went, my shoulders dropped and I just said, man, I go, is that what you really think? And he goes, no. He says, but man, did your attitude sure act like it, you know? And because the stuff that we did, they'll forgive, but
they'll never forget.
They never forget, you know? And, but man, you're doing the right thing with your kids.
Yeah.
Talk to them about it. Yep.
So I talk to him. I'm very transparent because unfortunately, when I was growing up, some of my like family tree issues weren't brought to me. My son, I talk a lot about peer pressure. That's like a big thing from when I was younger. And what really got me into like using at an early age was like the fear of being accepted, not being accepted, all the stuff that comes with it. But now I tell him when he's out with his friends, if drugs or alcohol, like I got a drug test waiting on the counter for when you come home, and that's your out. So if your friends offer you something that you don't want to do, just say my father's a psychopath. I have a drug test that he's going to make me take. And all his friends kind of look at me like, you know, I'm the crazy. I live in like a very nice town that, you know, I probably shouldn't be living in with, you know, my way that I came up. But, you know, I didn't really have an out. And that's something that I've learned through like education, talking to kids at school, learning different tactics from people, you know, a text message, hey dad, I'm in trouble, here's the address, no questions asked, I'll pick you up. And even talking to him, like if he chooses to do drugs or drink or whatever the case may be, I hope that he's comfortable enough to talk to me about it and know that I will love him no matter what, and that I would rather him call me if he's in danger than think he has to hide it from me, and then, you know, it snowballs into something worse than like, you know, a bad decision or a bad night getting behind the wheel of a car or in a friend's car or whatever. I just really try to focus on communication in that aspect, and then letting them know, like, you know, I'm an addict. You're more likely if you start trying things to fall down that same path. And I threw away sports. I threw away college. I threw away a lot of like golden opportunities, a lot of friends. He's known a lot of friends of mine that have passed away that he used to call, you know, Uncle Dougie, Uncle Sparky, that have now passed, whether it was from the drugs or lifestyle. So he has like a very harsh dose of reality. So I think, you know, hopefully I've done a good enough job that when he's faced, you know, he makes the right decision, whatever decision that might be.
Well, at the end of the day, that's all we can do as parents, right? As Flindt likes to say, well, Flindt gets faced with this a lot, where parents go, "Oh, my kid tells me everything; they would never lie."
Right. My daughter lies to me about everything. She's 9. Did you brush your teeth? Yeah. No, you didn't.
No, right. Toothbrush isn't even wet.
Yeah. Didn't even move from last night. What are you talking about, baby?
Yeah, I've gotten did you wash your hair? Of course they did that.
Yeah.
Over here.
Yeah.
There's no way.
Yeah, exactly. They don't eat their first response is to lie. Like they don't, you know.
Right. Yeah. Self-preservation, right? We'll do more as a human to not lose $5 than to earn $5. Right?
Mm-hmm. No, so exactly.
Save our ass despite our face.
Yep.
Matt, if there's any other insight that you kind of want to lend that maybe we didn't touch on, and tell people how they can get a hold of you.
Yeah, I mean, if anybody wants to follow me, you can look me up on Facebook, Matt Ganem the Poet. Instagram and Twitter handle is at Matt Ganem, GANEM _poet. Aftermath Addiction Treatment Center. You know, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram. You can see us holding up trophies of wiffle ball tournaments, and we got kickball and a 3-on-3 basketball coming up. So hopefully we can pull out another win in one of those. But yeah, I mean, you know, social media, I do, you know, podcasts like this. I got a bunch of stuff on YouTube, some really old stuff, interviews, talks. I got a lot of material somewhere out there on the web. You know, if you look up my name, I'm sure you'll be able to find something. So,
and the book, I know the book's out there.
Yep, The Shadow of an Addict, a collection of poetry I got. Put that out in 2012. So, still got some copies floating around.
Yeah. And some of it you did was published before your sobriety, right? Some of the work.
Yeah. I got published when I was younger, when I was writing. That book is from when I got clean, after I got clean. And it's actually a very condensed, like 3-month span of writing. And I had another book put together, and I'd self-published The Shadow of an Addict, and I had sold almost 4,000 copies out of my car at this point, and mailing them and meeting people. And where I'm at with everything else that I do, it was really difficult to try to put a second one together. And publishing companies, when you tell them you do poetry, they kind of laugh at you. So like, oh, this isn't going to make any money. Like, all right, buddy, I'll find another way. So I put a lot of my material out there just to, if people relate to it, hopefully, it inspires them to make some decisions or support on their path,
Yeah, keep them coming, because I stumble upon them on happenstance. Sometimes it seems a perfect time to sit and read it. So
yeah, definitely.
Keep them coming. Mr. Andersen.
Matt, thank you so much for joining us. You're doing good work. I really enjoyed this. I'd like to be in touch with you. Maybe we could, do a couple things together in the future. I like what you're doing, man. I'm proud of you. You got some good time under your belt, and just keep it up, man. Keep it up. We need good treatment people out there, and you're one of them. Thank you.
I keep trying my best, and thank you guys for having me on here. It's an honor.
If you or a loved one is struggling with addiction, please call Parents and Addicts in Need at 559-579-1551 or check us out online at painnonprofit.org. Follow us on social media at Pain Nonprofit. Please subscribe to the podcast and share with others wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube. To donate, please click the link in the description and help us save more lives gripped by addiction.
This podcast contains the views and opinions of hosts and their guests to the show. The content here should not be taken as medical advice. The content here is for informational purposes only. And because each person is sharing their unique perspective, please consult your healthcare professional for any medical questions. Views and opinions expressed in the podcast and website are our own and do not represent that of our places of work. While we make every effort to ensure that the information we are sharing is accurate, we welcome any comments, suggestions, or correction of errors. Privacy is of the utmost importance to us. For those wishing anonymity, people, places, and scenarios mentioned in the podcast have been changed to protect confidentiality at the request of certain guests. This website or podcast should not be used in any legal capacity whatsoever, including but not limited to establishing standard of care in a legal sense or as a basis for expert witness testimony. No guarantee is given regarding the accuracy of any statements or opinions made on the podcast or website. In no way does listening, reading, emailing, or interacting on social media with our content establish a doctor-patient relationship. If you find any errors in any of the content of this podcast or blogs, please send a message through the contact page.